Inflammation. It is very, very important to understand this term. Inflammation is our body's natural response towards any kind of stress, any kind of injury, any infection, or any kind of toxins. As a temporary response in healthy situations, it serves as body's friend. But when it becomes chronic or long-standing, it may cause severe damage to our body. Let me explain this with a very simple example. Suppose you got an injury on your knee. Now the area around the knee will swell up and becomes red because your blood vessels dilate and the blood rushes towards the area to heal it. Now your immune system starts producing white blood cells or whatever it needs to fight with the infection. Side by side, the cells around the injury will start dividing and multiplying to start the healing process. All this is termed as inflammation. What will happen when healing will start? This redness will disappear and this swelling will come down and the inflammation subsides. Everything goes back to normal. But in chronic inflammation, when inflammatory response goes higher and it doesn't come down, that is really dangerous and leads to many disorders along with autoimmune disorders like say arthritis, leaky gut syndrome, and even cancers. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of almost every disease and it affects the DNA. Every disease starts from a cell. So the goal of today's presentation is to make you aware about the causes of chronic inflammation and what all measures can be adopted to reduce it. So primarily it will be a food-based approach to create an anti-inflammatory environment to boost up the immunity, which is the need of the hour. Let's move on to the causes of inflammation. There are many causes which can create chronic inflammation environment inside the body. The first is malnutrition. It could be overnutrition, which leads to obesity or undernutrition. It could be micronutrient deficiency, which is also referred to as hidden hunger. When our food choices are poor or there is a lack of fruit and vegetables in our diet, the body gets deprived of micronutrients, which could be a cause of chronic inflammation. Next reason for chronic inflammation is sleep deprivation. It is a very important cause, as Swati ma'am also told us about it. Sometimes you must have noticed when after a sleepless night, your eyes are puffy, your energy levels are low, you feel body bloated. That is all happening with you just because of the inflammation. The overnight healing body heals ourselves. When we are in deep sleep, our body goes into the healing mode. But when we are not sleeping properly, either the quantity or the quality of sleep is disturbed, it leads to chronic inflammation. So it is very important to sleep for at least 6 to 7 hours without any disturbance to give time to our body to heal itself. Next very common cause is chronic inflammation is due to sedentary lifestyle. Human body is genetically programmed to move more in order to stay healthy. But in this contemporary time, we are bound to sit for long hours. If you are a student, you need to sit for long hours. If you are a teacher or a doctor or you're working in a corporate, you are bound to stick to your chair to finish the job. But this is again a leading cause of increased inflammation. So try to move as much as possible. Do not sit longer than 30 minutes. After every 30 minutes, take a break of 2 to 3 minutes, move your body, stretch your body, and then again start your work. Next reason is chronic stress or depression. That is another very common cause. We are not able to sometimes understand what is happening with us. We are eating right and we are exercising well. Everything is going well from our side, but still we are not able to meet our health goals. So that could happen when there is underlying stress is there, because whenever we are in stress, our body releases a hormone which is called cortisol, and cortisol causes inflammation in the body. Next reason is environmental pollution. Every day we are ingesting chemicals, we are ingesting pesticides, we are ingesting preservatives in the form of vegetables, fruits, and the packed foods. And also, every day we are inhaling the polluted air. All these environmental toxins are also leading to a inflammatory state of the body. So we have enough reasons around us to make us sick. Let's move on to the category of foods which are directly linked with inflammation and disease. So here we have listed some category of foods which are causing inflammations in the body, as well as they lower our immunity. So these are refined foods, ultra processed foods, preserved foods, artificial sweeteners, excess sodium intake, and alcohol. So first of all, let's discuss about refined foods. Refined grains, the maida and the cornstarch. These are the two most common found in your burger, pizza, cookies, naan or tandoori roti. Everything is made up of maida. Why maida is bad for our health? Why it lowers down our immunity? The one reason is it is very high in gluten. Gluten is a protein which is, if taken in excess, may cause inflammations in our body, may cause leaky gut syndrome, and it is also not good for our digestion. Next reason why maida, why refined grains are harmful for us is high glycemic index. All these refined flours have high glycemic index. Glycemic index is sugar raising capacity of a particular food. So they can raise sugar levels above normal, and that is why sugar in itself is a inflammatory food. So we should refrain from the sugar also, apart from the refined grains. Also, refined grains are devoid of fiber, as during the refining process, the outer layer and the innermost germ part has been removed. So we are just left with a textury atta. We are using to prepare so many things in routine. So we should refrain ourselves from the refined grains, and cornstarch is being used in soups as a thickener. You must have seen we are adding cornstarch in the soups as well as in gravies. So both these things are harmful for our body, and we must refrain ourselves from refined grains. Instead, we must enjoy the whole grains like whole wheat and barley, ragi, jowar, bajra. There are so many millets also we can include in our diet. Next food category is refined oil. Refined oil is a part of almost every Indian kitchen because they are cheap. Also, taste acceptance is very high. They don't have their own flavor. And why they are bad for our health? Because they are extracted at a very, very high temperature, must be more than 250 degrees centigrade, and then they are chemically cleaned for the impurities, for the taste, for the odors. And sometimes during this refining process, some trans fats are being added to it. And due to its refining, they have very low nutritive value, and they may be high in omega 6. Omega 6 we need in our body up to a limit, but if it crosses the limit, if there is a disturbance in ratios of omega 6 and omega 3, it is highly inflammatory food. So for this reason, refined oils are not good for our health. Whatever you buy from the market or whatever you eat in the market, eat outside, everything is made up of refined oils. So refined oils need to be cut down from our diet. But an interesting fact is there, if it is refined oil or any other oil or it is desi ghee, calories will remain same in all kind of oils. 1 teaspoon of oil has 45 calories, It may be your refined oil, it may be your desi ghee, it may be your coconut oil, any kind of oil. But nutritive value of every oil depends on its refining process. So kick out the refined oil from your kitchen and move on to the cold pressed versions of oil, wood churned oils or kachi ghani oils like mustard oil, coconut oil, groundnut oil, sesame oil or walnut oil can also be used for their health benefits. Next category of food is the refined sugar. Refined sugar means the white sugar which we use in routine. Excessive intake of sugar through sweets, cakes, cookies, pastries is also a leading cause of diseases even in children. Sugar is not even good for children. Why sugar is combined with fats or proteins? And it causes excess production of AGEs. AGEs means dietary advanced glycosylated end products which are harmful for our body. Sugar increases the gut permeability which leads to irritable bowel syndrome. It also increases insulin hormone in our body which leads to insulin resistance which again lead to obesity which is also termed as an inflammatory condition. If we are consuming excess of sugar in our diet, it may raise your triglyceride levels and bad cholesterol also. So refrain from the white sugar as far as possible or limit its use. Move towards the natural sweeteners. Enjoy the sweetness of fruits and dry fruits. Next food is refined salt, which is a topic of research. It is still under research whether we should use the normal salt or we should use the Himalayan pink salt. As it is said, the refined salt is devoid of natural minerals, whereas Himalayan salt has 84 beneficial minerals, but they are in trace amount. So it is still a case of research. But yes, this is true. We should not use excessive salt in our diet. There should be a limit of using salt in our diet because salt also causes inflammation, also causes hypertension, as well as it swells. Water retention problem can happen with use of excessive salt. So all these foods, the refined foods, need to be kicked out of the lifestyle, or we should use them as minimum as possible. So the next is the food which is causing inflammatory responses in our body is the ultra processed food. Your instant noodles, burgers, pizza, packet soup, ready to eat foods, all are ultra processed foods. Studies and research is saying ultra processed food is 33% higher in extra sugar, extra salt, and 25% extra fat. Sugar, salt, and fat. All these things are inflammatory in nature when consumed in excess. Also, these foods are high in AGEs. AGEs is advanced glycolated end products of the food which are harmful for our body. So, ultra processed food is another reason for the inflammatory response of our body. So, we must limit ultra processed food in routine. Next food category, which is chemically preserved food. There are many preparations which are available in market and they are also in our kitchen which have chemical preservatives in them. For example, tomato puree, tomato ketchup, mayonnaise, ginger garlic paste, all these products we are regularly using, but they are chemically preserved. According to studies, regular use of preservatives may lead to inflammation, oxidative stress, obesity, ADHD, which is a psychological disorder in children, increased allergies, and it may even cause cancer. So instead of buying the bottles from the market, we can rely more onto homemade chutneys and homemade ginger garlic paste. It is so easy to prepare. So next time when you buy a packed one, so just check the label how many preservatives are being added for our they are bad for our health. So limit the consumption of all the chemically preserved foods as far as possible. Artificial sweeteners is another example of inflammatory foods. Excessive use of artificial sweeteners may cause some disturbance in our gut bacteria and increases the insulin resistance in our body. What happens whenever we take something sweet which has artificial sweetener in it, our taste receptors on tongue gives a message to the brain that some sugar is coming, and in turn brain give a message to the pancreas that sugar is coming, release the insulin for the sugar to digest. But actually there was no sugar, it was just a virtual sweetness. So in that case, the unused insulin will start increasing in your blood, and you already know insulin resistance is the precursor of diabetes and obesity. So artificial sweetener, if you are using occasionally, that's perfectly fine. But in regular routine, we should refrain from the artificial sweeteners also. Still, you want to use stevia is a safer option to use as an artificial sweetener because it is a natural sweetener. It's not a chemical. Excessive sodium intake, as I already discussed about sodium, about the salt, pickle, papad, chips, packed food, salted nuts. In many forms, we are consuming excess of salt, which leads to inflammation and which triggers the autoimmune responses. Autoimmune diseases are the diseases in which our own immunity attacks on our body. It doesn't attack on the antigens, it start attacking on our body, it start harming our own body. That is called autoimmune response, which is also a condition of chronic inflammation. So alcohol is another food. If taken in excess, if consumed in excess and frequently, it may cause to inflammation, and it also leads to leaky gut that drives the inflammation throughout the body, and also it is dangerous for our liver and it may lead to liver disease also. But the fact for alcoholics is if they will consume alcohol in a limited quantity, in a limited frequency, it may reduce the inflammation markers like C-reactive protein and erythrocyte sedimentation rate. But this is not true for non-alcoholics. It is for only who are already taking alcohol.